and welcome everyone, this is VarastusStarcraft, and I'm back with some more StarCraft 2. Now, I have a Terran versus Protoss. Looks like it's Dirty Peasant versus KStyle, and I believe Dirty Peasant was the one that sent this in to me. Now, these are much higher league players than me. I believe they're Platinum or Diamond, not sure. Now, this is early game, so they're both just building their workers. So not much is going on so far, but Terran versus Protoss has the potential for quite a few different tactics. Looks like he's going to use that SCV there to scout. Now, there's so many tactics they could use. They could use a proxy pylon 4-gate, they could use 3-gate robo, anything like that, forge fast expansion, but that's usually against Zerg. Now, one thing that he could do, I've seen happen quite a few times, is go for a planetary fortress in his natural and do mass SCV repair, but that's not very common in higher leagues and foreign bronze, but there are just so many opportunities here. It's going to be interesting. Looks like those scouts are passing each other. Now, this is going to be interesting because I don't actually know who wins this, so I guess we'll both be surprised. They're both just building those workers. Now, you see that gateway going down, and that is, yeah, that's about right. 13 is the normal time for a gateway, so nothing wrong with that. And looks like he's also building his barracks to wall off. Now, it's good that he's walling off too, because I remember last game they didn't, but you should usually wall off just for security. And it's interesting that he's walling off up here instead of his natural, because they often do it in their natural, so that they can expand and be protected from that. See that KStyle has a much higher APM than Dirty Peasant, so I'm sure that'll come into play. See, he hasn't upgraded to orbital command yet, but it is still a bit early for that, so nothing wrong with that. Oh, there it goes. And there's the scout running through. It's good that he hasn't taken all of his probes off of mining to, my bad, to chase that, because that's really just losing a lot of mining time. And you can see the differences easily. These players just move so much faster and never get supply blocked. These are just very high quality players, and they're both pretty good, so it's going to be super interesting. Dirty Peasant's already got a marine out. He's microing that to take out the probe. He's got the orbital command. I notice he isn't building an SCV right now, which is a bit odd. Whereas that next just finished one up, I'm sure he'll start again. He's chrono boosting out that stalker. I'd expect him more to chrono boost out the warp gate, since that SCV isn't doing too much damage right now. But looks like he's going for an early expansion at about the 4-minute mark. He's guarding it by about 2 marines, and that's really interesting. It could be risky to do that, but it can also pay off in the long run. Looks like he might be getting ready for an expansion soon. I'm not entirely sure, but that cybernetics course about a third of the way done with that warp gate, and I notice he isn't. Oh, there's the stalker. He's building SCVs, and he hasn't actually gotten gas yet, or a second gas yet, which is interesting. Most have gotten it by the 5-minute mark. That command center's finishing up, and looks like 2 barracks so far, and that person's building, or Dirty Peasants, they're building both of their refineries, and is keeping up on those mules. Overall, really good job with the macro. They're both keeping it pretty low, not getting supply blocked. I noticed that Dirty Peasant, interesting enough, is quite the opposite of supply blocked. He's at 24 out of 46, which just kind of wastes his minerals on so many supply depots so early. It seems like he would, just use that gradually. It looks like the first blood's coming. He's attacking those marines. Notice how he's microing them. Stalkers actually have a longer range than marines, so they can easily attack, fall back a bit, and then attack again. And I notice he hasn't actually pulled any SCVs from up here down to the expansion as most people would do, which is interesting because he's going to take a while to build some SCVs down here. He's building a reactor in a tech lab. That tech lab will then get a stim pack and combat shield first, or really fast, And it's interesting that he's going for Stim Pack first. I personally would go for Combat Shield first, since it offers much better survivability. And that reactor, that'll always speed up Marine production. Looks like he's building another reactor there. And there's the factory. So he'll probably go for some siege tanks or Thors. Notice there's an idle SCV there, which isn't too good. But he's still keeping up on those SCVs. Looks like there's a bit of an attack from some stalkers, but that looks more like just some harassment than a serious attack. I notice KStyle's going for a third expansion, or a second expansion pretty early in the game, which is a really interesting move, and honestly I'd say this is about the right time for the first expansion. I find it really interesting that he's going for his second already. Could be really risky. Notice he doesn't have that big of a force, just those few stalkers he's using to attack. So if the Terran was to push right now, he could probably take him out, but looks like he isn't. Obviously, because he doesn't know. If he had scouted that third expansion, it would tell him a lot to go attack. But he's got those at the Zelnaga Watchtower, so he'll know if any attacks are coming. He's building some probes out of that nexus, getting some gateways. That's looks to be he's going for a 6 gate, which is interesting. Oh, I misspoke. An 8 gate. That's quite a bit. Now, it's obvious that he can support that because of his 3 nexuses. So, since he went for an early expansion, or early 2 expansions, that'll really get his economy booming. So he'll be able to afford much more, and although he was vulnerable in the early game, now that we're going into the middle game, he'll really be able to build up an army fast and take him out eventually. Now, keep in mind I don't know who wins, so let's just see what happens. Now, he should be building a forge by now to try to get some upgrades, or maybe even a robotics bay. Doesn't look like he has that. And so just interesting. It looks like he's going for a pure stalker build, and that's not very common, but if it works, what am I to be the judge? It looks like he's got some zealots and stalkers there, but that's a pretty sizable Terran force, so it'll be an interesting fight. Oh, there's the proxy pylon going down for some reinforcements. He's got the medivacs to heal up those marines and marauders that could actually drop from behind, so let's see. If he did go into drop into his mineral line, he could really do serious harm. By taking out all those probes, he would cripple his economy. So, let's see what happens. Now, since that pylon is there, when the Protoss does attack, then he'll be able to instantly send in 8 more units from that. Then he could warp, or Chrono boost some more out. So, that could really be beneficial. But obviously, that Terran force is much better. But notice that great use of force field there to cut off his army and do a more sizable, or a more usable chunk, you know. So if he just keeps up that force field by splitting him, he really could take them out, and that's just a great display of micromanagement. It was really smart of him to get those sentries. Now, if that pylon were to be taken out, he would be cut off from any reinforcements, so he'd be vulnerable. But it looks like he's taken out most of the Terran force, so he might actually be able to take him out. Looks like he just got some reinforcements there. Not actually sure where those came from, but Dirty Peasant has 1 expansion, whereas KStyle has 2. I notice he hasn't gotten gas yet on on either of the expansions yet, which is interesting. So it's obvious he isn't in a very gas heavy build, but those stalkers do use up 50 gas apiece, and the sentries use about 100. Now, Dirty Peasant has some siege tank, medivacs, and marauders, and marauders are the perfect counter to stalkers, and I do find it interesting that he hasn't sieged up that tank, because they do much more damage with a much better range when you do that. Now, he doesn't have any... oh, never mind. Looks like those SCVs were wiped out. He does have that tech lab, but yet he isn't researching siege tech, which is just really a waste, and he should have done that quite a while ago. Now, he did take out a lot of those units, but I don't think he'll be able to break the front because of that chokehold right there, and just really smart rolling off because it will cut him off. And it's interesting that he went for a reactor instead of a tech lab with the starport, because if he could get some cloaked banshees, it's obvious that he doesn't have any detection right here and he could just wipe him out. He's keeping up on those mules. And here's another command center. Looks like he's getting ready for an expo soon. But that would be interesting because he hasn't actually seen the space, so he doesn't know if he has any phoenixes. So that command center would be vulnerable while it's flying over. But while we know that he doesn't have any anti-air, he doesn't know that. So he really should just be careful with that for now. Another great use of force field to cut off the bulk of the army and just put it into manageable chunks, and it's this great micromanagement that will help him in all games. Now you see these SCVs are building or are repairing that orbital command, and I've actually, as I was saying earlier, I've encountered people who built a planetary fortress and just set a ton of SCVs to repair it, and if they also put some missile turrets being repaired over there, that is very hard to beat, because if they put enough missile turrets, then you can't really get any air to take it out, because they could also, behind that line, build units too, so that's a really hard build to counter. Looks like he's just focusing on medivacs for now though, and that's a really interesting choice because he already has a few. I don't really see the need for that many medivacs. Personally, I'd go for some banshees instead. Maybe a Viking just to be safe. He's gotten dual engineering bays for fast upgrades, which can be risky because he needs the money, but then again, he does need upgrades fast too, so sometimes it can pay off. And it looks like he does have plenty of money, which honestly isn't the smartest idea to keep that much. You really should stay lower. And they're both doing pretty good on APM, and their food's about equal, and they're not supply blocked. It's really just obvious that they're quality players. Here's a Protoss force. Here's the Protoss force over here, and the Terran force is over here. And the Terran force looks like it's pretty formidable, and it could most likely take out that Protoss force right there, since he does have some reinforcements right here. But then again, the Protoss, since he has so many gates, he could just instantly warp in 8 units. And it's interesting he's going from mainly mainly Zealots instead of Stalkers, since Stalkers can attack at range, and in my opinion are a bit more powerful. Again, he's splitting up that army, really good of him. Those medivacs are actually very powerful in healing, because it's very hard to take them out while you're being attacked by units, and also while you're attacking units it's really hard to kill them because they're being healed so much. And medivacs are just really powerful units, and they can be really helpful sometimes. Looks like that Terran's going in. That Protoss doesn't actually have much left, he just has a little token force right there. But if Dirty Peasant were to push now, he could probably take it out. Looks like the third expansion's going down for KStyle. He's really got a booming economy. He's building 2 more gateways to take that up to a 10 gate. See, he's rallying his probes over to here, the least saturated mineral line. It's interesting that he has these assimilators with no probes on them, because that's... oh, I just spoke too soon. He just put them on. Now, there's that orbital command over here, and it was just floated over, so that's his second expansion. He's keeping his little force there. It's really just a great game so far, very fun to watch. He's keeping up on those mules. I can't say enough, these are just such good quality players. It's interesting that he's getting vehicle weapons and vehicle plating, as I believe all he has are medivacs. He doesn't even have any siege tanks or Thors. Oh, looks like I missed something. There's a drop over here, and drops are always interesting because they can attack from behind and you don't really see them coming, so they can do a lot of damage before you're able to get over there, but it looks like he warped in about 8 zealots, or I think that's 10 actually. So those will just wipe out the inferior Terran force. Now, it's good of him to take out those medivacs because those could come back to haunt him. He's got that orbital command over there, but he's not actually mining, which is kind of a waste. This is just about out of minerals, so we really should switch over to this one. But it looks like this one doesn't even have so many SCVs, so it's obvious that KStyle has a lot more expansions and therefore a better economy. He's got that robotics bay. Looks like he's returning home, and the Terran force isn't actually that large. You see, I believe he's upgraded. Yes, he has 1-1 upgrades, and the Protoss doesn't have any upgrades at all, so that Terran force with upgrades can really just do a lot of damage to the Protoss because upgrades really matter, and he has combat shield too, and stim pack, so really just right now this Terran force is superior. Oh, and the Thors do actually quite a bit of damage, so looks like that Terran force is coming in. Just going over here first, which I find is very interesting. I don't really see the reason for that. Oh, he's taking out that incoming expansion there. Let's see if he can take it out before he cancels it. Indeed he did, so there's 400 minerals down the drain. Now, it was also, again, great of him to use those force fields. They'll really help, but looks like he just can't beat those upgrades, and yeah, there's the GG. Overall, it was a great game, and I loved casting it. So, this is VarastusStarcraft signing off, and I hope to be back with some more StarCraft 2 action soon. Thanks for watching, and remember, subscribe, and comment, like, and add to your favorites. That's the best way to support me. So, really just thanks, and I hope to see you soon.